Hello, product divers. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are joining today's webinar from. You are welcome. Thank you for making the time. Thank you for taking your time off your busy schedule. I know some of you are still in the office. Some of you are still wrapping up your day's activity, but you chose to be here today. Thank you. You are welcome. I hope you can all hear me. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Great. Okay, without much ado, we'll get started. So you are welcome once again to today's webinar. And it's good you took time off your busy schedules to be here. For those who don't know the voice behind this, my name is Sayram, and I'm the community organizer for ProductDive webinars, and I'll be hosting this with other CEOs on the ProductDive team. So that's the face behind the voice you are hearing. Thank you, and let's get right into it. So as most of you are already aware, today we'll be talking about how to collect user feedback when you don't have a researcher. I'm sure most of you are itching to know how to go about this. Don't worry, relax, and learn something new today. And if you have any questions too, kindly note them down. During the course of the presentation, you can send them to me via DM, or you can put them in the comment section. I'll take note of them at the appropriate time. I'll share it with our speaker, and she'll be happy to do justice to your questions. So without much ado, let me give you the warmest welcome once again to the friendliest ProductDive community in West Africa, which is none other than ProductDive. As Toby would say, at ProductDive, we are happy people, we are friendly, it's a no judgment zone. You are free to hang out with us, learn, share ideas. It doesn't matter where you are in your product management journey, whether you are just starting, transition, you don't know where to, like, ProductDive is the place to be. So at ProductDive, our goal is to help practicing product managers and aspiring product managers become highly skilled. So do you want to be that 10x product manager? ProductDive is here to help you. So how do we do that? Why do we do that? Why do we want you to become highly skilled? Why do we want you to be the 10x product manager? One, so that you can build products that serve customers better. What is the point of you building a product that doesn't serve customer needs? And two, we want you to accelerate your careers in product management. So how do we do that? We do that one way we do that is via our community engagement. That's the ProductDive webinars like this one that we are having, ProductDive AMA, that Ask Me sessions that we have on our Slack channel. So if you are not part of our Slack channel, I'll share the link with you very soon so you can join our Slack community, and you are welcome to join in. One other way we do that is also through product management courses. And I'll speak more about that. So these are ProductDive online workshops. They are fully 100% online, but it doesn't take away the knowledge, the impact, the reach that you get at the end of the day just because it's online. Those of you who have passed through the ProductDive online courses can testify that it's very rich, and you never leave the ProductDive classes the same. So are you considering transition into product management, but you don't know how to get started? Don't worry, ProductDive has a course tailored made for you, and which is our beginner course. So it's starting on the 18th of June. So if this is something you want to do, kindly follow the link on the screen and just join in, or you can send an email to admissions@productdive.com and we'll be happy to assist you. Next is our the ProductDive complete management courses. So if you are already a product manager, but you don't know how to accelerate, or you don't know how to get started in your ProductDive management, we are here to help you. So one way is by signing up for the complete management course, and that also starts on the 4th of June, running through to 16th of July. Once again, you can send an email to productdive.com and we will be happy to assist you get started. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we are here today is to learn from none other than Ogochukwu, who is a senior product manager at Interswitch Lagos. And she has over 12 years experience in managing and supporting digital products and services. Our speaker has a keen eye for product development and innovation, which drives her passion for customer success and business growth. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, I'll need you to give your best cooperation to our speaker for today, who is none other than Ms. Ogochukwu, to speak to us on the topic, how to collect user feedback when you don't have a user session. Please, I'll need you to mute your mics if you're not talking at the right time. Everybody will be given the permission to talk and ask questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm struggling to pronounce your name. I think it's Shemer something, but thank you for the grand introduction.
Okay,
Sharam, right?
Yes, Sharam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Product Divers, for the opportunity to be at this session today. And I mean, we're just going to have a very friendly conversation. For most of us, is what we already know, but it's just zooming in on some silent points that we haven't really taken into consideration in our work as a product manager. So, I mean, for those that are not product managers, I'm sure we'll have a thing or two to learn from this session. For those that are product managers, I'm sure it will be more like a light bulb moment for a lot of us, and an eye opener for a couple of us too. So let me quickly go on to the presentation. Please just give me a moment to share my slides. Please let me know once you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll just move straight on to talk about why we're here today, and that is to collect user feedback as a product manager when you don't have a researcher. So maybe large enterprises and large corporations, I mean, the way their product management team is structured is such that there's a product manager, there's a UI UX person, there's a researcher. So I mean, you have the full suite of everybody you need to support your product at every given time. Basically, you typically have your researcher who goes ahead. I mean, when there is a feature or a new product that you're building, you have this person within your organization that his role or his responsibility is to do a research and gather information from customers and come back to you and say, oh, based on what we want to build, this is the information I've gathered, this is what customers want. So you just have that in a platter, for you, for maybe some large enterprises and all. Again, for some organizations, I mean, you as the product manager, that will be your sole responsibility, which is what I actually think it should be, to go all out and and get this research and do this research and more like get this feedback from customers. Okay. One thing we need to note as product managers is that if there's anything that is so key as a product manager, it's user feedback, is building to market fit, building to specification, building to create the right value in the market. One thing, again, I've seen in my years as a product manager is that most times as product managers, we tend to assume that this is what a customer wants. And at the end of the day, back and find out that, wow, it wasn't what the customer wanted. This is what they wanted. But again, in your thinking and you're trying to feel that, oh, I know it all. I've been talking to customers. This is what I think they want. You find out at the end of the day that in truth, this is not really what they want. So I'll start by just explaining what is user feedback. Okay, what exactly, when we talk about user feedback, what is it? It's information that customers provide about their experience with the product. And in the process of getting that feedback, it reveals to you what a customer wants. Sorry, I think some people's mics are not muted. It reveals to you what a customer wants or what a user wants, okay, in the process of gathering that feedback. Again, feedbacks are not always positive. It could be positive, it could be negative. So we have to open our minds to know that when I think that this is what a customer wants and I'm going to the customer, I need to come to the customer with an open mind, not trying to ask customers questions that are drifting the customer towards what we think they should want, but towards what exactly do they want. And I think that is one of our key functions as product managers. We need to be able to distill what a customer ideally wants from a product or from a new feature that is about to be launched. What exactly is that customer saying? In some cases, you've come up with a brilliant idea, you think it will work. By the time you test it with 1 or 2 customers, you realize that, wow, I mean, this is not going to scale. This is actually totally completely different from what the customer wants. And you're asking yourself, where did I get it wrong? Then you go back to the drawing board. So you have to also know that this feedback could be positive or negative, okay? And again, user feedback there are 2 ways to actually get user feedback. It could be some proactive feedback and it could be a reactive feedback. Proactive feedback is when you go out to solicit for that customer's feedback to say, oh, this is what we're trying to do, or this is what we have done, or even regarding a product that we have launched. What do you think about it? Does it work for your market? Does it work for your users? Does it meet the needs and demands of your organization? Is it exactly what you want? Okay, so that is a proactive feedback when you're going all out to act. But a reactive feedback is when a customer is coming to give you this information. So the customer is coming and it's maybe in your design flow or in your product, maybe there's a user feedback section or something like a box for you to indicate feedback, and the customer is coming to say, oh, no, Mr. Whatever, or this product, I'm not feeling it, there's this functionality I'm not seeing and it's key to my. So that is when you're actually getting feedback from the customer without prompting that feedback. That is what we call the reactive feedback from customers. Yeah. And again, in truth, okay, that being said, feedbacks ultimately help you spend less time building things that you don't need. If there's something so true. And I'll just paint a typical picture or give a typical scenario that happened to me, maybe sometime last year. So we're building a product, okay? And again, at that time, somebody within the team, another product manager again within the team came and said, oh, this is how I think we should build a solution, okay? And of course, I being the product manager responsible for that product, I looked at it and I said, no, I don't think so. I engineering lead or more like the design architect. And I said, oh, I think this flow is going to work better. I think we need to do it this and this. I think these are things, that kind of, you feel you have a lot of knowledge base and you think this is what the customer truly wants. So I went all out, and by the time I sold it to the engineer, or rather to the solution architect and the lead engineer, we're like, oh, this is fantastic. This is brilliant. I think we should do it. But of course, I being a product manager, I knew that I couldn't just go ahead and build it without testing it with the customer, find out what the customer wanted. So what did I do? I went all out. I said, okay, I'm going to pick 3 different segments within, because I manage a B2B solution. I said I was going to pick out 3 different customer segments and test this idea with 3 segments along the lines of this product and find out what exactly whether it meets their requirement or whether that's what they want. So I called the first customer. Of course, I spoke to him on the phone. I sold the idea. This is what we want to do, and this is how we think we're approaching it. Is it going to work for you? The first answer was a no. I said, okay, maybe this one, okay, fine, no from you. Second person, no. Third person, no. You know, at that point in time, I didn't need to go out to ask any other person. It was so clear to me that that very brilliant idea we thought we had, that very wonderful solution we thought we wanted to build, wasn't going to meet the customer's requirements, singularly because their operational processes internally was different from what we were building. And that taught me an important lesson that I've always known. But you know, sometimes there are some lessons that just reemphasizes what you know, to say that user feedback is so important building a solution. Ordinarily, would have gone all out and would have built the solution. And at the end, by the time you launch that solution, nobody's going to use it. Customers are going to complain. In fact, maybe the existing ones, because it was more like an enhancement to what already exists, but it was supposed to be like, you know, for lack of a better word, something again that when we launch this, it will be awesome. Everybody that is using other competing solution will junk it and come and use that. But it was clear that if we went ahead to build that solution, nobody was going to use it. So I'm just trying to emphasize the essence and the importance of user feedback in whatever you're building, manager. It's so key, because if not, you can go all out, spend 3 months, 2 months building a solution, waste the time of your engineers, and at the end of the day, it amounts to nothing. Okay, that is why we are emphasizing this user feedback. It's so key in building a solution or building an initiative or a product. Again, whether you're developing a new product or you've been managing the same product for years, you need user feedback. So user feedback is not typically, oh, when I'm building a new solution, I need feedback. Even on your existing solutions, from time to time, you need to make out time to find out, is my solution still relevant in the industry? Because the truth of the matter is that you find out that fintechs and other companies are building in more better things. You know, you come up with a solution. Yes, everybody says, oh, wow, this is fantastic. They adopt it. Before you know it, so a competition has launched something even better than your solution. And again, of course, these people have tricks and ways to, or rather, they've come up with a higher proposition than yours, and they're drawing customers to themselves, and you don't even know. So you have at every point in time, your solution is relevant in the industry. You need to keep probing. You need to keep finding out from your customers, oh, what are the additional things you want? Is it still making sense? Is it still meeting your wants and needs? Is it still creating value within your ecosystem, within your industry? You need to continuously be on top of your game as a product manager to make sure that you don't just wake up and you realize that all your customers are gone, that somebody has launched a fantastic, groundbreaking solution that has swept away all your customers, and you're busy wondering, how did it happen? How didn't I know? I thought my solution was still relevant. So again, what we're saying is that gathering feedback is not only for when you're building new products or when you're in the product development cycle. No, it's at every stage, at every time. You have to make sure that your solution is relevant. You have to make sure you're asking probing questions. You have to make sure that you're in constant contact and in touch with your customers to make sure that you're still creating relevance, and to make sure that if there are new things they want and you've sampled it across different entities, this thing is very key to a lot of my customers. I need to quickly build it in. I need to stay relevant. I need to stay on top of my game as a product manager. Okay. So having a strong user experience can impact your relationship with customers. So just like I mentioned, being on top of your game, having constant communication sessions, meeting. Of course, now that a lot of us are working virtually, it could be a Zoom call. It could be picking up your telephone call to, make those inquiries. In the scenario I cited, of course, it was during COVID. So again, nobody was really going anywhere. So I just picked up my phone and made those calls, and I got all the answers. By calling 3 customers in 3 different segments, I already knew what the answer was. I knew that wasn't going to scale. So I didn't even need to go further. I just needed to now go all out, gather the requirements, the exact requirements, and meet all the operational processes that otherwise, if I had gone that other way, it wouldn't have met it at all. Okay, so that is it's what it is around gathering user feedback, both for your existing solutions, both for new solutions. Make sure you're staying relevant, make sure you're asking probing questions, make sure you're consistently speaking to your customers, and that your product is still relevant in the market, that it has not gone another competing solution has come and taken over all your customers or taken over from your product. Okay, so so this is just speaking to for people that want to build new products or new improvements or new initiatives or something around your product or add new features. Again, we're saying there are stages in gathering user feedback in the product process. Okay, some people will say, oh, it's only when I launch I'll now get the feedback. That is so wrong. Some people will say it's only after prototyping that I need feedback. That is so wrong. I outlined here 4 different stages where you need to get feedback from your customer when you're building a new solution. This is more like you need to just zero into what exactly the market wants before releasing a product so that that product scales in the market and it's not one of those products that people are like, is one of those things. There's no competitive advantage. I mean, it's not creating any additional relevance. Why should I move from my existing product to this one? You have to make sure that at every point in time, you are getting this back. So the first one is the pre-prototype user feedback. So this is before you actually come up with a prototype. So if we know the different stages of a product development cycle, okay, after you, of course, you have an idea, of course, the ideation process and all. There's a process of research, and that is the part where at that point in time, or customer validation, that is the point in time when you need to gather your first feedback. Feedback from the point of view that I'm trying to build a solution. What need is this solution meeting in the market? For instance, I want to build Uber, for instance, for corporate entities, maybe kind of Uber that will transport people to the office and back, something along that line. Before you actually even design the solution, before you do the prototype, you're supposed to go all out and get feedback to even ask customers, oh, there's something we want to, this is something you're willing to adopt, or even if you're willing to adopt it, how do you think it should go? You know, those probing questions that will lead you to build a prototype that makes sense, a prototype that has all the functionalities or most of the functionalities or all of the functionalities that these customers want, okay? So you need to ask those probing questions before you even come up with a prototype. At the point where you're validating validating your idea or research, as some call it, you need to find out, you need to do your research at that point in time. The second time when you need to do your research is what I call the post-prototype user feedback. That's at the point in time where you have your prototype. So for instance, if you work for an enterprise organization or a startup that has a UI UX person, what we typically do, I mean, for my company, we typically have a UI UX person. So you come up with all your user stories. Of course, you relay to the UI UX person. You're working with him on a daily to come up with more like a prototype. Some people use wireframes in their industry as a form of prototype, but we actually do the design in a sketch, in a way that you can relate to it, more like a proper design, so to speak. So at the point in time when you have that design, another time to ask your probing questions, to get your user feedback. You can now take it to the same customers, again, depending on if you handle a B2B a product or you handle a P2P product, okay? There are different ways to do this research or get this user feedback, but I don't want us to go into it today, sorry. So after you have actually gotten that your prototype, okay, then you take it to your customers again, test it with some particular, if you are handling a B2B product, different segments that you're targeting with your product to say, oh, this is what we're looking at building. What do you think about it? Or some people will say, I think it's fine. Even when they say you think it's like, ask probing questions. Sometimes customers don't know what they want until you ask them some certain questions. Oh, what if you put a feature here that does this? You think it's something you adopt? You know, that kind of questions. In truth, sometimes customers don't know what they want, but when you pose some questions to them, you know, they start to think along those lines. They start saying, oh, okay, yeah, it will make sense, or no, it doesn't make sense, or I think I will use it, or I think I will not use it. But by and large, with that research, after you've come up with your prototype, you can say for sure, or to a large extent, if this your product is going to scale or you do not scale. And in the case of scenario, when you get negative feedback, you have to gather information based on the feedback you have, come back and redesign and go back again. You need to do it to the point where you know that you're satisfied with the output from your user research. You're satisfied with the feedback from your customers. Your customers have said X, Y, Z, and X, Y, Z is in your design, is in your prototype. Then you can give yourself thumbs up at that level before you take it into development. Okay, then there's something we call dog fooding. That's more like testing with internal teams. So if you have a product, before it is even launched, you know how we do all the whole soft launch and everything, you know, and all the beta testings and all. But before you even go ahead to test with customers after the solution have been built, I think a better approach might be to test with internal teams. Okay, so you work in, depending on the way your organization is structured, if you have a divisional structure, let's say there are different departments within that divisional structure, you just, you know, you deploy it to them and say, okay, test this solution, give me feedback, test this, give me feedback. What are the things you've identified? What are the things you think are not working well? What are the things you think don't make sense? You can test with the internal team. It can give you an idea, because again, these internal teams can be able to relate to it and tell you, oh, I don't think this works, I think this works, I think this works. It does not negate the fact that you still need to do your beta testing with your actual customers that are going to use the solution, but it will give an idea of, okay, this solution is making sense, or this solution is not making sense, or there might be one or two things that you need to change here and there. Again, your internal teams know what your solution is all about. They can be able to give you they can be able to make an informed decision, or rather give you solid feedback regarding that prototype, or that, that soft version that you have actually deployed to them to actually test. Then afterwards, you can now go all out, what I call the post-launch feedback, okay, and do your beta testing. After you have done all the validations, internal teams, you have done all your prototyping, done feedback, when the solution is then launched, okay, then you do your beta testing. You can gather a small group of users together to say, oh, test my solution, give me feedback, let me know what you think about it, and stuff like that. Okay, again, even after you deploy the solution, again, your ears need to even be open all the more to make sure you're gathering all the feedback from customers that they're using the solution, maybe where they are bored, things that are not working as appropriate, you know, where you've missed out one thing or the other, you know, you need to gather those feedback at that point in time and still take it back into development. So again, remember, when you're building with MVP in mind. You might not be building to have everything there at once, but you're building to have the basics that will drive value at that immediate point in time. Then with the feedback you have, you can now iterate with those and keep deploying until you build the exact replica of project that you need to be. Yeah. So that is it at this stage. And then again, here is now trying to highlight what are the methods of gathering user feedback. Okay, so a lot of us are asking ourselves and gather this user feedback. What is the way? What is the best way? How do I deploy this feedback? Do I need to go and knock in this customer's office and say, oh God, please, what do you think? What are the methods that are standard methods for gathering user feedback? I've highlighted here 5 different methods. Okay, the first one is through surveys. The second one is through feedback boxes. The third one is by reaching out directly to customers, user activity and analytics, and usability testing. In truth, yeah, depending on your product, you might need to deploy the 5 of them. That's the truth. In many cases, you might need to use these 5 different variants. In some cases, you might not need all. You might just need maybe 3, you know. Yeah, you might just need about 3, or in some cases 4. In most cases, I think you will need the 5 of them. Okay, depending on what you're doing. So if you're building a new product, okay, you will need the 5 of them. If you're maybe doing 1 or 2 enhancements here and there, you might not actually need the 5 of them. Okay, so let's start off with surveying. What actually surveys? Surveys are more like the bread and butter for getting user feedback. Everybody's conversant with, oh, we need to run a survey. The Survey Monkey, there are these other platforms for running survey. They're actually very helpful. What I've even also realized with surveys is sometimes it's really hard to get feedback from customers when you send a survey. Maybe you see 1 or 2. It will be very discouraging at times. So sometimes you need to do multiple follow-ups with customers so that you can get as much feedback as is necessary to take a decision regarding that product. Yeah, but yes, it's quite a way that, I mean, again, for customers, in some cases, what I've seen that works for me is that if it's people I have a relationship with, I tend to call them and say, please, can you just quickly fill the survey? It's not going to take time. But some useful tips in sending out a survey, some things you need to note is 1, to ensure you get valuable feedback from surveys, your questions should not be more than, in fact, should not be more, you shouldn't ask more than 10 questions in any survey you're doing, okay? In fact, preferably maybe like a 5, but if you really need to, don't push it to be above 10 questions. The truth of the matter, even for myself, when I see a survey and it's so long, I will just pack it one side. I'll tell myself, please, it's too hard. I don't want to think too much, you know, that kind of thing. And that's typical human behavior. But if you want customers to say, okay, it's just 5 questions, just 6 questions, it won't take you anything, it won't take you more than 2 minutes. People are more prone or more open to feel those type of feedback. Sorry, this type of survey, I'm sorry, than when it's a very long,
question, maybe like 3 pages, and you're wondering what's happening there. So in deploying a survey, please ensure the questions are not too long. 5 preferably. If you need to go all out, it shouldn't exceed 10 questions, okay? Ask only essential questions in your survey. Don't ask questions that are irrelevant. Don't ask questions because you want to hear the customers, what the customer feels about another product that you have built 10 years ago, or another one that exists in another department, or another one that is not relevant to what you're doing at that time. Ask only essential questions and ask open-ended questions. So sometimes I noticed that in surveys that we run, it could be a bit restrictive. So some people try to restrict you to say yes or no. But what if my answer is not yes or no? What if it is something else? What if I really want to tell you how I feel or what I think? So it's better you leave a comment box for the customer to just. There are sometimes you need those direct yes or no questions, yes. But I'm saying if the answer shouldn't really be a yes or no question, then leave it, let it be an open-ended question where the customer is just telling you exactly what he feels or how he feels or what he thinks about that solution. You know, I remember a survey I ran very recently regarding something we're trying to be. I just made it really open-ended, and when it was open, customers, both the things I didn't ask them and the things I asked them, they were ranting and talking, and it helped me a lot to understand their perspective. So beyond what I was doing, I got feedback regarding other things that were a bit connected to what I was doing, but outside. But you know, it helped me relate to what their pains were a lot more because I was asking an open-ended question where I gave them the freedom to express themselves. So it truly really helps. Okay. And use surveys as a starting point. So again, use surveys as a starting point when you're doing your product development. Okay, it might be when you have that light bulb moment, when you come up with that brilliant idea. Surveys can be your first thing to deploy to customers to say, oh, we're trying to do this. What do you think about this? Oh, would it be something you adopt? Oh, what do you think? You know, that kind of thing. So it could be more like your starting point before you can now tend to zero in on specific customers that you want to really get their feedback or specific customer segments. Okay. So the next thing are feedback boxes. So this one might be a bit restrictive, but I mean, very relevant for P2P solutions. Okay. So if you are actually handling a P2P solution where, I mean, of course, you need customer to interact with your platform, customer uses your platform and needs to give feedback when things are wrong, it needs to be one of the things that is more like it's mandatory in your platform, okay? Because at every given time, sometimes customers don't want to go somewhere to log an issue or log or say I'm having issue pressing this button. Maybe they just move on. Maybe they just find out, oh, I can't buy airtime, for instance, or oh, I can't get this loan at this time, and they just move on and say, what's the next platform? Let me use it. But if you have some feedback box there that says, oh, let us know what your problem is, the customer can quickly type in there, oh, I'm having issues with getting my loan or something. I'm trying to press a button and it's not responding. You know, the customer can give that feedback at that point in time, and you and you as the product manager can know, oh, there's a problem with my solution. It helps you immediately know there's a problem with my solution. What is happening here? We need to now start investigating. We need to check the system. We need to make sure if they're involved or, you know, has something gone wrong. You know, it just gives you, it's more like when we talked about the proactive and reactive, so it's more like the reactive feedback from customer when they are actually giving you information firsthand, okay, and saying this is what is wrong with your work. I would like to see your solution. Or some customers even tell you, why can't I see a button that does this in your solution? This your process flow is too long. Or God, can you people shorten it for us and make it easier for us? You know, some customers, in some cases, they even refer to competing solutions. They say, oh, why can't your solution be like this solution that I don't have to click here and here? I just, in one click, I'm able to achieve what I want. Why do I have to click 10 pages? So sometimes you see customers even giving you free feedback or free information, you know, on that feedback box. So that's one thing that is so relevant, especially for B solutions. That can also apply for B2B solutions in truth. Okay, but now it depends on the kind of B2B solution. I had an API-based solution where customer is just calling your API to process transactions. In that case, you know, there is no front end, so that might not really apply. But then if you have a platform, again, that has a front end, that is a very relevant feature to plug into your system. Okay, then this is what I think. This one I think is most critical. I think is most important. I think it's more like the for me. If there's any mechanism I think works 100% is reaching out to customers directly. Sometimes customers tell you so much when you reach out to them directly that they will normally not say. Okay. Sometimes if you have that personal touch and that personal relationship with a customer, you will be shocked at what they would think and what they will tell you about your solution. You'll be shocked at, the kind of information they will give you. In fact, a lot of them even give you, in fact, I could just remember, it was so funny, but very recently, I'm handling one of the solutions I handled is a legacy solution. So it has some issues in truth. And again, to fix the solution, to fix the issue, it's not very easy. Yes, just to be mild. So we have a customer coming on the solution and looking at product, said, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? And the customer said, that's it. You people are very funny. How can you give me a solution that I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that? I have to go round in circles to go and find this, to go and find that, to go and find that. I actually knew that was a problem, but the way he said it made it even more real to me, like, wow, it's actually true. Why would this be here? Why wouldn't that be here? So the guy was, because I was having that personal talk and personal one-on-one reach with the customer, he was able to open up and tell me that, no, you people can't be like this. And it was an eye-opener for me to say, I needed to prioritize this above every other. Yes, I know it's going to take us time to fix, but again, if it's so painful to this customer, that means it's so painful to other customers. Well, maybe they're not really seeking out, or maybe they're just managing it, for now. But this customer has actually spoken out, which of course we already knew, but because again, we have every company has resource constraints, so you try to always maybe prioritize and all. But this one was more like it is a real issue that it is about time we get to fix it. So that's what reaching out directly does to you. So like I said here, to truly understand how users feel about a product, especially a B2B product, you need to speak to them directly. You need to talk to your customer, especially for B2B solutions, okay? For P2P solutions, it's a bit dicey. You might want to call maybe a few and get feelers of what they think, which is fine. But for B2B solution, you need to make sure you're feeling the pulse of your customer at every given time. You need to make sure you're having those sessions, those monthly sessions to say, what do you think about my solution? What do you think we can do better? How can I make you happier? I know most of them always come and say, reduce your fees and all. We'll say, okay, maybe that one we talk for, maybe the business, but specific to my product. And again, this is not me talking about product, but something we need to know in whatever we're doing as product manager, just as an aside, is that your solution or your product needs to have a competitive advantage over the next product. That is the selling point, but I will not go into that today. Again, so speaking directly with user or customers is your chance to dig deeper and better understand their challenges, pain points, and additional product requirements. So just as we mentioned, you cannot just negate, or you cannot undermine the value of reaching out to your customers directly. It's very critical as a product manager. It's not just enough to say, oh, they've sent me or there are no issues. Oh, we've not gotten any complaints for the past 1 month or for the past 2 months. That you've not gotten any complaints can be negative. It can mean that your customers have all moved away. It could be that, oh, they're using you as an aside. They put you side by side with another product they're using. It could be anything. So make sure you're continuously and always on top of your game, probing for feedback, feeding the pulse of a customer, and finding out what you need to do better. You need to just keep improving your product. So at all times, it's meeting the needs of your customers at every given time. So if you don't reach out to your customers directly, you might be trying to fix the symptoms and not the real problem. So most times, people try to fix issues. Like I mentioned to you earlier, that we had a solution, but we're trying to, more like improve it, or more like do a state-of-the-art version of that solution, so that wow, when the customers try and use it, they'll be like, Interswitch, this is awesome and fantastic. But again, by the time we went all out and got that direct feedback, it was a no-no. So if you don't reach out to these customers directly, you will not be able to fix what exactly their problems is. You will only be fixing the symptoms in most cases. You won't have drilled down to know what their exact pain point is and fix that exact pain point or improve that product based on their exact need. You will not have that much information. You will only be working by assumption of what you think or know what exactly your customers want. So that is why it's very important to reach out to your customers directly. Yeah. And so this is user activity for analytics. So we know that product analytics creates visibility into user trends and activities and all. So this is also a very important method of gathering feedback. You need to have your metrics. You need to analyze. I want to say daily, but yes, I want to say also weekly, depending on what your metrics are. You need to keep looking at them. You need to keep saying, oh, I noticed that this customer last week did 10 transactions instead of 20. I noticed that, oh, this customer has reduced the volume of transactions they are processing through us. Oh, there must be an issue. I need to reach out. So this is where I'm saying you, because like I mentioned, you might need 3 or 4 or 5 of these methods in whatever you're building in or in whatever you're doing. Okay, so you need to, as a product manager, you need to have an analytical mind. You have to have an analytical mind. You have to look at your product metrics, your product KPI. You have to make sure that at every given point in time, okay, that this customer, the customer, I'll give you a typical example. Okay, there was a customer that we had, okay, and the customer was processing large volumes of transactions. And suddenly, we noticed that, most times customers don't just move from 10,000 transactions to 0. No, they move from 10,000 to 8,000 to 7,000, 6,000, 5,000. You're doing the trend before you know it moves all the way to 0, and you're wondering, how did it happen? So you need to catch it on time. At that time, when they're moving from 10,000 to 8,000, as a product manager, you need to catch it. With your analytics and the metrics and everything you're checking around your product, you need to catch it on time and leave it on the board. And that is the point in time where you need to reach out to your customer and say, oh, God, I notice your trends are not doing as much transaction. What is happening? You need to know exactly what is happening. Most of them will tell you, oh, there is some other product we are trying out in the market. That is the point in time where you need to understand, where you need to know, what is that person, what is that, what is competition offering them ahead of your product? Is it that they have a better solution? Sometimes it could be political. We know there are some scenarios where you can't really help it because maybe the other has vested interest in another company. In those cases, you might not really help it. But when it's a situation where you know you can help because your product is not performing as well as it should perform, or because your product has lots of issues that, is bugging the customer and is taking them out of business, that is the time you need to address it and address it quickly. Many a times when you catch those things on time, you're able to reverse the trend many times. If you don't catch it on time and it gets to the point where the customer leaves and is very comfortable without that solution, it will be 10 times as hard to bring that customer back when the customer has left completely. That is why user analytics is very important. You need to make sure you're looking at your customer's trends. You need to make sure you're catching whatever the issue is on time and leaving it in the board. Okay, so to make sure that as a product manager, you're taking charge of your customer, you're taking charge of the entire value chain of everything that concerns your product. You're making sure that your customers are happy, satisfied. If there are issues, you're trying as much as possible to fix it. I know sometimes it's not as easy as we say, but we just need to try to make sure that we're putting the right processes in place to make sure that we are averting any of these things that will try to rear its head, along the way as product managers. So we look through the activities of a user. It's much easier to identify the reason why certain outcomes occur. Exactly, just like I've mentioned. So when you look at the activity, you can say, oh, the trends are dropping, they're not processing as much. Again, if it's an app that your product is associated with an app, you're looking at the number of logins, you're saying, oh, why is the customer not booking so much from us as before? You're just doing analytics based on the metrics that you have defined around your product. Okay. Then product managers can leverage the information obtained from user activity analysis to engage customers. So you could engage these customers through email, through survey, through direct engagement. My preference is always direct engagement because I believe you learn a lot more from direct engagement. But again, surveys also help. In a case where it's P2P, a P2P solution, you might have 10,000 users. It's not easy to reach out to 10,000 users. So you might just decide to deploy a survey. In this is yes, an email, but if you can reach out to few customers, like you've noticed downward trending, even an upward trend. Sometimes you're wondering, there is something happening here. I can see that this customer has moved from 10,000 transactions to 20,000 transactions. That's more like 100% increase. Okay, it's also good for you to know what is happening. As a customer migrated to you, maybe before they were sharing their transaction between you and another solution, as the customer migrated all their traffic to you, why did they migrate their traffic to you. Hold them tight. Make sure that thing you're doing that made them move all their volumes to you, you're doing it well, improving on it by the day. That is the way you can keep your customer, okay? Usability testing, yeah. So watching a customer use a product enables you see the sections that they are drawn to. What they are confused. This kind of information, in truth, it's invaluable. So before you actually deploy, I mean, we've talked about the different phases of the user testing, okay? But usability testing is so important because in every given scenario, okay, let's say for this will mostly apply again when you just launched a new solution, or maybe when you're doing like a pre-launch test or a beta testing or something, okay? It's good for you to gather some set of customers, sit down with these customers and watch them use your solution. Again, this will apply in most cases for a B2B. It could also apply for, this will apply for a P2P. In some cases, a B2B, depending on the kind of B2B solution you have. If you have an API product that doesn't have a front end, then of course the usability testing might not really apply because there is no front end. But once you have a product that has a front end, whether B2B, whether P2P, whether B2C, you have that has a front end, okay, you need usability testing. So when you have deployed the solution, okay, before you launch it to everybody, it's good to gather some group of customers together. Even if you don't, depend on how you want to run it. Some people can gather maybe some customers in different batches, batch A, batch B, batch C. Maybe you decide to go somewhere, bring them together for whatever reason to test out that solution. And as they're testing that solution, you need to watch them to understand how they're using it, to understand their struggles. When you're watching the music, that is when you will understand that it's for this customer to find where my pay button is, or it's not easy for this customer to find where the balance is. So you just watch them and observe what they are doing and ask questions. So what are you looking for? Or maybe they can tell you, I'm looking for where this is. And you're noting that, okay, maybe we need to bring this feature that is very important here. So it's very important to do this usability testing and get feedback from the customer at that given point in time. What are your struggles with this platform, with this app? What are the things you found hard to find? What are the things that you think we could do better on? Are there so many steps to make payments? Are there minimal payment options? At that point in time, you're getting feedback from the customer based on your product, okay? And usability testing, again, in some cases, it might not even just be for new solution. Even when your solution exists and you feel that you need to upgrade your solution, it's also good to run it by maybe a customer that has never used it before. Of course, for customers that have used it before, it will be easy for them to navigate. In their subconscious, everything is fine because they've been using it. They're so used to it. They don't even know what a new version will look like. But maybe if you test it with a customer that has never used that solution before, it will be an eye-opener for you to see, this is maybe for instance, I can reduce the number of steps because it's taking so much steps to achieve to perform a particular function. Okay, that is the point in time where you're able to identify that. So usability testing is very important for a product that has a front end, okay, or rather a UI, either of them. You can also achieve this by defining a task you want somebody to have a random person do it and get recorded on the entire process. So in a case where you're not able to do it physically, like maybe gather people together, you can maybe speak to 1 or 2 or 3 customers. I mean, maybe most of us, of course, as product managers, we have customers that we have a relationship, we have a rapport with. Again, that's in truth. If you're a product manager, you're able to have a rapport with your customers, I'm not sure you'll be able to get anything done. Because some of these customers are the ones that will call you and tell you, oh, we want to move away from your product and use something else. But if those are the ones that give you expo regarding what's happening in the company. At that point in time, you need to now step up and find ways you can avert it. So if you don't have a good relationship with your customers, especially your key customers, then I'm not sure how much you can achieve as a product manager. You need to maintain a good relationship with your customers. So again, you have 1 or 2 customers or 3 customers, depending on what you're trying to test, okay? And you're telling them, okay, please, can you just video yourself doing this? When they send the video back to you, then you can access what their struggles are. By watching that video, you can see, okay, I think we can do this better. And of course, not just sending their video back to you, you also need to ask them questions point in time when they've said it. So I'm saying that could be more like a subsidiary means to get that, to do that, perform that usability testing when you're not able to do it physically. Okay, so when filtering through your feedback, look out for common trends, and this will form the basis for your prioritization, and this is very key. Again, you know that your prioritization is based on meeting a need and meeting a customer's requirement. So by the time you've done your usability testing, you've seen that out of the 10 people that you've gathered together to get feedback from, 9 of them are pointing to a particular direction, pointing in automatically the first 2-3 things in your roadmap. That should be one of the things that, oh, if the product is already in the market, I need to change this. I need to find ways to make it easier for the customer. I need to find ways to make the reporting, for instance, more visible. I need to find ways to make this report easily downloadable. In my case, I had a scenario where I ran a test. I'll give you a typical scenario. It was actually a survey that I did actually with customers because I wanted to find out how to prioritize certain things. By the time the result came back to me, everything was just labeling on reports. We needed to download in this way, download in that way. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that. In fact, like out of all, for instance, if I got 30 feedback, 28 of them spoke about the same thing. Automatically, that went to my first item in the next PI that we're planning. Because I knew that this was so key to customers and they've endured it for a long time. It's not as if you know that customers are complaining, but sometimes you realize the magnitude of pain when you run this feedback and everybody's saying the same thing. And just tell yourself that in truth, you can't neglect it anymore. Yes, there are a lot of things in the pipeline you need to do, but this has become really critical. Okay, that is why user feedback is very important as product managers. Okay, so this is more like saying what next. So after hearing all this, what next? What should you do? Once you find a workable process for collecting quality feedback from your customer on a regular basis, make it a standard process. So standardize it. You have told yourself that in building a solution, or rather, you know today that in building a solution, you need customer feedback. Get a process that works for your organization and standardize it. Let it be that, oh, before we build a new solution, we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 customer feedback sessions, okay, before I build a solution. Let it be that, oh, before I deploy a new initiative, we need to do 1, 2, 3 things in this manner. Standardize it and make it standard so that you're following a particular process and you're getting the desired feedback. So find out what works for your organization. I'm not here to say, oh, you must do this or you must do that. Every organization is different, in truth. Their processes, their methodologies are different. So find out what works for your organization, depending on the product you manage, depending on the kind of solution it is, depending on the kind of company you work with. Find out what works for you as a product manager, what and keep it standardized across your organization. And that will, you actually see a lot of progress. You see a lot of involvement in the products that you're building and in the output from whatever you deploy or build. That is it. Thank you very much. So I'll take questions now.
Hello. Hello. I can see some hands are up, but I will let Shimra, sorry if I murdered your name. I'll let her coordinate that. Hello. Okay.
Thank you so much, Ogochukwu. Thank you so much. I think that you can go
Thank
ahead
you.
to answer any questions it is that you have.
Okay, I can see Winner Oluwatosin, his hands are up. Winner, you can go on with your questions, please. Hello? Hello, if you're speaking, you're
Hello.
mute.
Hi, product divers. Hi, Ogochukwu. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. We've learned a lot. Personally, I was busily writing, and wow, this is an eye opener. Thank you so much. Guys, I'm
welcome.
sure you do have a lot of questions for Ugo. So kindly raise your hands, or if you don't mind, you can drop your questions in the comment section, and I will be glad to read them out for our speaker.
Okay, I think yes, I can unmute. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and Ogochukwu, that was a very informative session for me. Thank you very much. So I do have some questions, right? About two questions actually. So my first question is in gathering user, because you when you were talking about user feedback, there was a particular slide that I had gotten into, you got to explaining why it is important to gather feedback as a product manager. I wanted to ask that, what direction or type of questions would you recommend, right? Would you, because you spoke about the scenario that you had, and I think that the question, you said you asked 3 customers from 3 businesses from different segments, right? But the example of question that you gave were direct questions, right? And my conversation with people, with other product managers, say on LinkedIn and stuff, they would say that you should never ask a customer direct questions, because for some, they might think, or they might say, oh, I think it's nice, you can go ahead with that feature or that product, right? For some, you can get like a direct no, right? So my first question would be, what kind of questions, what type of questions would you recommend? Open-ended, closed questions, direct questions? That's
okay. Let me answer. Okay, let me answer that one first. So okay. Yeah, it all depends on the kind of survey, or the kind of feedback you want to get. So in my particular scenario, if you remember, I told you there was an existing product and we're trying to enhance it to become better, a better version of itself, right? And we turned it out and said, oh, this method or this design or this new flow should be fantastic and all. So I needed to ask specific questions to say, if we do this and that, is it going to meet your need as a customer? That direct feedback, that direct answer helped me know that, no, if you do this, it will affect our operations. The way we settle or the way our operations are is XYZ. But if I had asked a question, they would have told me yes. They would have said that it's fine, go ahead and do it, because the indirect question would have sounded very nice in truth, but it wasn't going to. I needed something specific. I needed to know that this design, because it was more like a design change. And sometimes if you change the design of, especially in a B2B solution, it affects their processes internally, because they built what exactly they're using today. They built it to this specification, or how they explain. They let's say, for instance, the operations team are working on it in this way, everything is aligning to what currently, then you come and you change it completely. You need to know if that change is going to affect their processes internally or not. That's why I needed to ask specific questions. However, there are scenarios where you're just saying non-specific questions, because maybe you're just trying to understand what they think about it. So I'm not going to tell them, oh, I'm designing this solution to, I'm designing this solution to route the transaction straight from your system to my system, for instance, or it's going to pass. No, I'm going to ask them non-direct question, which is, oh, what do you think about a solution that will do this for you? Is this something you would like to have? What do you think around a feature that would do this for you? Is this something, you know what you're building, but you just want to, you're building your question around the value proposition that you're going to give to the customer by that feature. You understand? So it just depends on the scenario. You understand the scenario, what you want to achieve, and then ask according to you. So in many cases, yes, non-direct questions will work, because you want to fetch what the exact what the exact feelers is for that particular feature. You want to know how the customer will take it or not take it. But in some scenario, because of what I was given at the time, I needed specifics. I didn't need question of how would you think. They would have told me yes. But if I needed to tell them what the flow would look like, because again, these are already existing customers, to know if it will work for their internal process or not. So you just need to be assertive to know when to ask those direct questions and when to ask indirect questions. Do you understand?
Okay, thank you. So from your response, I kind of like the follow-up, and I'll give an example. So there was one time that I wanted to design of my products, and immediately the product designer was done. I saw it. I don't know where it came from. I blotted out straight away. I said I hate it. That was the first thing I said. And everybody on the call laughed, but it was true. I just hated the design. But now what my product team lead now said is that it's not about me. Like, I mean, the product is definitely not about me. So what we did was we introduced the design, right? And then we had like, say, about 10 users come on board to use it. But contrary to my opinion, they loved it, right? Which now brings the follow-up question that there are times when so to be on the safe side, when I want to get like user feedback, I do usability testing instead, right? Let them use it. Now, from your mannerism, from your comment, right? Or if it can be as little as a sigh, right? That I would pick up and now ask questions. And then from there, I have like design thinking sessions with my other PMs or other people to now come up with like solutions that might address that problem. But instead of me coming out directly to say, do you think this would work, right? In my experience, right, I kind of like realized that sometimes users don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So to be on the safe side of both, coming up with solutions that will actually help users and also understanding what users will do, right? I might have to like go other route, but that's just by doing. So thank you for that. Now my second question is, how often should you check your, say, user product analytics? You were talking about getting feedback also from, say, product analytics or user metrics, right? How often should you check? Every day, once a week, twice, once in 2 weeks, once a month? How often would you recommend?
So it could be a daily run through, like maybe not a serious check, but just, if you have maybe some BI tool that exports, like we have something like that, exports certain matrices to you on a daily, you can just check. If you notice that my volume, there are patterns you already know, maybe like on a Sunday, transactions are lower than a Monday or a Saturday. Just some patterns you've identified with product, okay? But a daily thing would be maybe like an exporting daily, just look through, find out, this customer I know that normally does, say for instance, 5K transactions every day. Today they're doing 3K. There's a flag. Sometimes, most times you're drawn towards the top customers in truth, and even your analytics might not capture all your customers. It might just capture the top 50 customers, top 10 customers, depending on who. Because again, most times, the 80-20 rule. Most times it's 20% of your customers that give you 80% of the revenue. So in truth, your eye might just be on certain people. Do you understand? But on a monthly basis, okay. I also come to weekly. So analysis you might also do based on that, your BI, to do a comparison of last week versus this week or the last 4 weeks, okay, to just see what is happening there. But where I know you need to... Sorry? Okay. So, but where I know you need to be very critical around and very detailed will be on your monthly analysis. So the daily and the weekly is a run through, if you get what I'm saying. You have a BI that exports, so I don't know if you have, but maybe if you have a system internally that exports that data, you check the data, you look through. But when you do a proper analysis, it's on a monthly basis where you're more like extrapolating all that in data and you're looking at it internally and doing maybe comparison along the last 12 months to make sure that the trends are, they are looking good, if you get what I'm saying. So that's where I think you need to zero in and now find out, the trend of my customer over the past 12 months, what is happening here? I see that it's going down. You get? So what I even always recommend is do your trending along the last 12 months on a monthly basis. But on a daily and a weekly, doing a lookup, a look through, you know what the pattern of your customers are. You're making sure that they're keeping to that pattern. In a case where you're noticing a drop, in some cases it will just be like, oh, maybe that they have a lot of customers, so they didn't process a lot of transactions for people that do a bit B2B, but that the B2B product. But the P2P product, it could just be like, maybe you could even find out maybe there was an issue with your system on that day. Just daily analysis will help you understand. And now start asking questions. If you have an infrastructure team, you're asking, oh, I noticed a trend here. I noticed there are lots of timeout transactions. What happened? Maybe they could tell you there's a system downtime. So you know, even when a customer is ranting, you say, oh, sorry, there was a system downtime. Because as a product manager, you should be on top of your game. You should know. So that when customers call you, you know how to respond to them. You understand? So again, I'm saying daily, weekly, monthly, but the critical and the one you should pay a lot of attention. I don't want to say the one you should pay a lot of attention to, but where you now want to do your proper analytics, you're drilling down your maybe revenue trend, your volume and value, representing them in graphical forms and stuff like that. Maybe if you need to present to management, anybody that is asking you about your product will be on a monthly basis. But on a daily, weekly basis, you should have some trending from I don't know if you have it in your organization, so let me not just assume based on what we have, but you should look at your data on a daily basis, but take time and zero in on what is happening using the customer's 12 months trend on a monthly basis. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you. So
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a couple of questions in the chat session. So I'd like to read that to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a couple. We have some from Blessing.
I can't hear anything. I don't know if it's only me.
Okay, I think I lost the earlier questions. Hi, Blessing, Chika. If you are still on the call, please reshare your question. I was switching between two machines because I have low battery on one, so I had to switch. So I think I lost the questions. So Stephanie wanted to know. Okay, Blessing's question is what are the ways to engage in a direct engagement? What are the ways to engage? I'm sure she wants to know what are the ways to engage customers in the direct engagement?
Okay. So direct engagement could be picking up your phone and putting your call through to a customer. So a typical example, if it's a B2B solution, depending on what the trends or your trending is looking like a particular product and what the feedback you're looking at getting from the customer, you can ask, for instance, you've noticed that this customer in the past carries out 20 transactions monthly. This is a P2P solution. Now the customer is doing just 5. So you just want to pick up your phone and call the customer and just understand, and maybe call like 3, 4, 5 customers that fall within that bracket. Okay, that's one end. For a P2P solution, of course, a Zoom call or something, because again, some people think it's too serious. It could also be an email, to the customer to say, that is not really direct, but it could be, in case the customer is not picking up, okay, it could be a text message to the customer to say, oh, this is this person from, I don't know if you people see this, if you people use Bolt. Yes, it's Bolt. There's this Uche guy from Bolt that is always sending people text messages all the time, to say, oh, stay on top So I'm saying you could also send the customer a direct text message to say, oh, I noticed this, I noticed that. Please, it would be nice to have feedback. Sometimes, of course, they will respond. Sometimes they will not respond. But that could be a way to reach out to your customer directly. Is maybe hearing the customer speak directly. Okay, for a P2P, it could be a telephone conversation. It could be dropping the customer a text message. But for the B2B, I'll recommend telephone conversation or a Zoom call, or using Zoom or Google Meet or one of these virtual calls, okay, to actually understand what the customer's challenges are. So that's what I mean, reaching out to the customer directly. I do a lot of phone conversations because I more like have the contact with my customers. Again, mainly the top ones. So I mainly do a lot of reaching out through phone calls, okay? And again, of course, times when we now need to schedule a session with their team, then of course we will schedule that session with the team via our internal teams and this thing application. But yeah, so that direct is direct Zoom session, your phone call. And yeah, but in a case where you're not getting a response on a B2B solution, then you can do a text message, you can do an email. Okay, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So our last question from Stephanie. Stephanie wants to know, what tools do you use to monitor the user on your platform? So in terms of user interaction, what tools do you use to monitor that?
User interaction or user analytics? User interaction, I'm trying to understand what it means by user interaction. So
what tool do you use to monitor user data on your platform?
Oh, data. Oh, okay. Okay, so we have this business intelligence tool. I don't know if a lot of companies use it, but Power BI, you can get any data you want. You can configure. We have actually an analytics person, a data analytics person. So you tell him the kind of reporting, the kind of things you want to be represented in the report. So for instance, if it's success rate, there's a column for success rate, there's a column for volume and value of transactions processed, for the revenue made from this customer. You can just define any metric you want, and with that business intelligence tool, it gives you all the information you want. Of course, it connects to the databases of the system of the product, to pull out all the information and put it in an analytical manner for you. It could be graphical, it could be pie chart, it could be any way you want it in truth. So that is what we use, and it could even be exported to your email on a daily basis. So if you say on a daily basis, I want all my success rate, all my volume and value of all my customers, all the transactions they processed the day before to get to me by 8 a.m. On a daily basis, you can actually have that in your mailbox. So that is what we use. We use Power BI, in my organization, and I find that very valuable. I'm sure the other two ones actually, but I think that's the one I'm conversant with.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Analytics and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ogo, for making the time, impacting our community. We've learned a lot from you this afternoon. And I might say I have learned a lot. And I just want to share what I have learned, just two of the things I have learned with the rest of the community members. So one, don't wait till you launch your MVP before you do user research. So at every point in time, you need to do user research. So ask probing questions at every point in time. So when you take your prototype to your users, you have to ask questions, ask probing questions. So I just want to share those two. Those are things I have learned. I don't know what you have learned. So go ahead, share what you have learned. Use the hashtag ProductDive webinar with the rest of the world. So for those who didn't get to join, they can also learn from you. So thank you once again for making the time to join in for today. And we will definitely come back knocking, because we need to have a repeat of this session, maybe a part 2, so we can get to learn more, because there is more to learn when it comes to user research for products. So thank you so much once again. And to our community members, thank you for making the time. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for asking your questions. And this is just to remind you all that if you are here and you are considering joining our upcoming training session, be it the intermediate class or the beginner class, kindly check the chat session. We have the dates there, or you can just send a quick email to admissions@productdive.com to book your slot, and we'll be happy to have you join our session or any of our classes. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful afternoon, and happy weekend to you all. Thank you and take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Product Divers. Bye. Have a good weekend. Bye. Bye.